What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Basketball Buddies Pod. We are your hosts, Ethan and Caden. Uh, Today is January 29th, and trade deadline is right around the corner. We are going to tap into that. Of course, we're going to do the normal recaps of Thunder and Mavs news. But yeah, Caden, how we doing tonight?
Doing good. Mavericks fans have been getting some good news as of recently with the announcement of some players coming back. So we're going to take a little bit of a look at that. But been a wild week of NBA trade rumors, so I'm kind of excited to get to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, trade deadline right around the corner. So we have a lot to talk about. But as always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube. And we also want to shout out to social media. So we are on X, Instagram, and TikTok. So remember to pay attention to those and look into that because we have constant, updates and our thoughts on, whenever the Thunder and the Mavs play and whatnot there. And me and Caden are also very active on Twitter too. If you want to talk to us, always willing to have a conversation there. So,
Yep.
so yeah, Caden, talk a little bit about the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah. So obviously we got pretty good news today. Najee Marshall coming back tonight against the Pelicans, against his former team. Probably looking to get some revenge there. Pretty good news for the Mavs. He's going to be on a 15 minutes restriction tonight, so not going to get the full Najee Marshall load that he usually gets. Usually hovering around 30 minutes a game, so it's going to be about cut that in half, and then Mavs fans have been worried about that guy. He's basically been dead. He's missed 9 games due to sickness, and it's not just like 9 games straight. It's been like 3 games at a time, a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, a week and a half at a time. So hopefully that guy's drinking his emergency or wearing a mask or doing what he needs to do because we need him on the court defensively specifically, but also just his playmaking with Luka being out. So pretty
Yeah,
excited to see what he's got tonight.
yeah. As a Thunder fan, I just want to point out, he's been tweeting more than playing recently, so it's been interesting
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah,
I know.
I think today he got a painting, or yesterday he got a painting of somebody drew a painting of him just socking Josef Nurkic in the face.
That's so good.
So he did like a jersey swap picture with it, and so I mean I love that man. He's got attitude. He's a stud. He's a baller. He plays defense, and Mavs fans are so happy to have him back. So pretty excited about that. But what I wanted to talk a little bit about, my prediction from the Wizards game the other day on Monday. I kind of talked about it last pod. I was expecting a big Clay game, and boy, did we get a big Clay game. He tied a Mavs record for threes in a quarter with 7 threes in the first quarter against the Wizards.
Yeah, I was getting shades and PTSD of 2016 Game Six Clay in that first quarter. I mean, unreal shot making. I haven't seen him have that much confidence at any point in the season so far.
Yep,
And it was a total shift from the other night when they played Boston, right? Where
yep.
he just didn't look like he wanted to shoot for whatever reason, wasn't getting the looks he wanted. Against, you know, that night against the Wizards, he was just, I mean, the top of the key, fadeaways in the corner.
Everywhere.
I mean, it was everything. Definitely what Dallas has been looking for him when they signed him, right?
Yeah, yeah, and the main thing for him has been there's been kind of there's games where like you can obviously tell like there was a scheme drawn up for him. Someone talked about it in the huddle or someone talked about it in practice, like, hey, we need to get Clay going. Because you could tell we went straight to him, 3, 4, 5 plays specifically drawn up for Clay threes, which works a lot better when you're playing a team like the Wizards. Obviously, other teams are going to guard that probably a little bit better. Some basic defensive switching was not happening that led to a couple of those Clay threes, but they're definitely you see this with this Luka-less Mavs team, a struggle to find Klay Thompson the ball. And you know, it's going to come more naturally him getting more shots when Luka has all that attention and gravity towards him, obviously. But
Yeah.
it really is nice to see us emphasize like we need to get this guy shots. This is one of the greatest shooters ever. So it was pretty fun to watch him get some confidence going into this 6 game road trip or 5 game road trip. Which will be really nice for the team. Another note that I wanted to make, another Omax Prosper career night, tied his career high in points, 20 points. I mean, he was everywhere. And it's hard not to get excited as Mavs fans because we haven't seen our team blow out someone quite like we did yesterday in a while. But, I mean, the Wizards are one of the worst teams I've ever seen, ever. And that's
Yeah.
not overhyping it this year. They're genuinely awful.
No, they have no interest in winning whatsoever. I mean, and you could tell it's internal. With for those that didn't see Kyle Kuzma's comments after he scored 30 something points, basically just saying, I wasn't worried about all these guys developing. I was just going to get my shots, right?
Yep.
They have all sorts of team turmoil. Obviously, they're playing all young players with looks like they have a team with no direction or leadership whatsoever. I mean, I was impressed with the Mavs defense still, though. Even with all the turmoil with the Wizards, they do have a decently talented offense. And, Dallas did a good job for the most part. And that's really been a staple, I think, of these Jason Kidd Dallas teams is that, yes, they can really get it going with offense. Obviously, with the head of the snake being Kyrie and Luka. No Luka tonight, obviously. But, I love the way he's sort of got these defensive principles nailed in these guys' heads,
Yeah. And that was a big, I think that was a big aspect of why we just blew them out by so much. We were obviously able to get some stops. Our offense has not been the problem as of late with this team, which is weird. It's our turnovers that lead to easy offense for the other team. That's kind of been the problem with this Luka-less Mavs team. So what another thing that I wanted to highlight from that Wizards game, probably the last thing, because you can't take too many things away, is the minutes without Daniel Gafford. We are all kind of wondering as Mavs fans, where was this going? Were we going to see Kyler Kelly step in immediately to those minutes? And no, we got the PJ Washington, Omax Prosper 4 and 5 small ball minutes. And that was some of the most productive minutes on the floor for us as a team. Obviously, we know PJ's a dog. He's going to stick his head in there. He's not afraid to guard in the post. He's not afraid to, hit the glass. He's not afraid to block shots. So we weren't really worried about him at the 5, but we were worrying about that gap at the 4 whenever he slides to the 5. Omax filled that pretty darn well the other day. So it'll be a lot more interesting to see tonight against the Pelicans if that small ball lineup works whenever PJ's sliding to the 5 and guarding Misi, and then Omax is now sliding over to Zion because Zion is playing tonight. So that will be something to keep your eye on for tonight with the Mavs. We did see Kyler Kelly step in and play some garbage minutes for us. 7 minutes, not too much to take away from that. He looked like he was exhausted from the last 24 hours, which he probably was. I mean, he had one practice with us. He had, one day to learn schemes. He looked a step behind to me on most plays defensively, which worried me a little bit. So there was a few plays where there was some drivers or there was some backdoor cuts, and instead of going and walling straight up, he was almost looking at his own man, hugged up tight on his own man. And then by the time he realized he needed to help, because anybody that watched the Mavs know we play funnel defense. We funneled. If you get beat off the dribble, funnel him into our bigs, into our shot blockers. He wasn't ready. He wasn't willing to step, or he wasn't even looking to step up and then take that wall up at the rim with some of these guys. He got a couple of fouls because he was just late because he was so hugged up on his guys. So we'll see a little bit more of him in our defensive scheme, being able to roam the paint a little bit more, hopefully. And then obviously, like, I want to see him start meeting some shots at the rim especially in transition. I think he had a really good opportunity to have a little chase down block, and he just didn't quite attack the rim the way I wanted to. But he did get fouled, scored his first points as a Mav. He got 4 rebounds. He moves well. I just need to see. I want to see a little bit more motor on him getting above the rim on both sides of the floor. So
Yeah,
that
I
was
thought
what I saw by him.
I thought your point about the way Dallas plays defense, the funneling was key there, and it just kind of highlights why the center position, especially for Dallas, is so important. And part of the reason why Dallas made the finals last year is because they got excellent play throughout the season from Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, right?
Yes.
I saw it firsthand too defensively when we played y'all in the playoffs. It really bothered us driving to the rim with those guys under there. And if your big is a step behind or not ready to take those funnels, the Dallas defense is just not going to perform as it should.
Yeah. Well, when you're funneling somebody to the basket, there has to be a communication between the center and the person that's trading that player off, because then there's a rotation that's happening. So the guy funneling him either takes backside help or he goes and rotates up top. Mavericks do it. You kind of see changes against specific teams the way the Mavs do it. It's all on the center though. And Jason Kidd said that he was really good at communicating, but the problem is when he's not able to make that switch early enough, the guard is literally letting that guy have free reign to the basket. He's not really the guard isn't really going to bump him that much unless he's still in good position. So that center has to be ready to sit there and wall up and contest the shot to the guard or block the shot for the guard, pretty instantly. So they can't be hugged up on your guy. It's not I feel like he plays a lot of shooters in the G League, so he feels like he needs to hug up on his center matchup, but he was pretty hugged up on his guy, not willing to help, and he wasn't in the specific spots to help correctly. So that's something that I'll see like a little bit better, hopefully, whenever he's working with Tyson Chandler and working with Lively and Gafford on where to specifically be during certain drives on certain parts of the floor.
Yeah, and that'll be put to the test in these upcoming games, right? Against the Pelicans and the Pistons, Zion Williamson, obviously one of the premier guys getting to the basket in the NBA. Always has been since he entered the league, just a freak, Right. We all know what Zion Williamson is capable of when he takes care of himself and is healthy. Cade Cunningham, comparable sort of engine there with Detroit. And really this whole road trip from Cleveland, not necessarily as much, but Philly, Tyrese Maxey, right? Explosive, quick. He's going to have to be ready to, make those, moves, and those helps whenever he needs to, if he's going to be able to play in that game. Same thing with Boston, right? With Jason Tatum. Those guys love to get to the rim. And, this Pelicans game will be interesting. I really do think this is a good matchup for him to experiment, because Messi's not a guy that's going to be obviously shooting outside of the restricted area, really, So there's no reason to be on him,
Right.
If Messi kills you, Messi kills you. Yeah. So great matchup of those principles tonight for him.
There's almost a certain part of me that's telling me he's not even going to play tonight. So we'll see how it's really going to rely on if PJ and Omac's minutes are going well. Kyler may not even play, but I'd like to see him play. I'd like to see what we have in our two-way 7-footer with, blocks leader. I'd like to see if we can actually, use him in certain spots. So hopefully he'll get some meaningful minutes tonight. He didn't against the Wizards. It was 7 minutes of trash minutes. So I'd really like to see him. The main bulk of my Mavs segment tonight, I wanted to talk about some really good news that we heard that a lot of Mavs fans are excited about. Dante Exum upgraded from out to doubtful. And for people that don't follow the NBA that much, probably are like, Caden, you sound like an idiot. But that actually is good news. That means, these are more of a game time decision look than it is just specifically him being out. And so Dante Exum meant a huge part to this Mavs team, especially in the regular season last year. I think there was a certain point in time, like a 5-game period, where he averaged 16 and 10 for us. His stats from last year are 19 minutes a game, so obviously he played a large role on our team. 7.8 points, 2.9 assists. He really is going to be another great ball handler that we can go to in throughout the game. The big thing with him is assuming he's going to take about a week or so to get back to his form from last year. He's been out for 4 or 5 months right now with wrist surgery, and is his jump shot going to look as good as it did last year? I think he was shooting like in the 40s for most of the year last year. For especially during the regular season, he was really tearing it up from three. He had some big clutch plays for the Mavs. My kind of thing is, I'm gonna look at him. Where does he fit during when he gets back on the court with, he's probably going to be back around the same time as Luka. So whose minutes is he taking? What spot is he filling? He's not going to be playing probably 19 minutes a game like he did for us last year. Spencer Dinwiddie has been too good this year. Kyrie has been playing these are the last 5 games. So obviously we have to include Luka in some of these. Clay's been around 26.7 minutes a game. Kyrie's been 37 minutes a game. Spencer's been 30 minutes a game. Najee's been 30 minutes a game. Kessler Edwards, 16 minutes a game. Quentin Grimes, 30 minutes a game. Hardy, 15 minutes a game. The main spot I see him taking minutes for us will probably, obviously, all those Kessler Edwards minutes are gone. Oof. He's not going to get any playing time with Exum and a Luka back on this team. I don't care how good he is defensively. He's probably going to take some Spencer minutes. And I'm not saying he's going to take 10 Spencer minutes. He'll probably take 5 Spencer minutes. He'll probably take a little bit of Quentin Grimes minutes. But Exum is okay. Exum was a good defender for us last year during the regular season. I feel like in the playoffs we saw him get like crossed to the floor multiple times, during the playoffs. Don't let that skew your vision. He's very good at our defensive game plan, which is he's really good off the closeout defensively. He's pretty good on ball. He's all right getting around screens. Overall, he's a solid defender, or a good defender for our game plan that we use. It's going to be nice to be able to put him, because he's a taller guard. He's going to be able to guard some taller guards, or some forwards every once in a while. He could share some minutes with Najee at the 3 sometimes, and guard some threes, maybe play some threes sometimes. I think that the Mavs are really going to try to experiment with him around the perimeter. Obviously, we want him taking more of a secondary on-ball role, but he doesn't really need to play on ball. He's much better off ball. Personally, what I think, he was much better a spot-up shooter than he was on ball. He's going to be really good to use in certain situations whenever, obviously, like Quentin Grimes is in foul trouble. Najee Marshall's in foul trouble. Najee Marshall isn't hitting shots. Quentin Grimes isn't hitting shots on a specific night. Clay isn't hitting shots on a specific night. He's going to be able to step in and hit shots and play good defense to the team. So great. Never a problem with this Mavs team getting someone back like that. Obviously, he's kind of the Swiss Army knife of the team, and we can plug him into a lot of different spots. So pretty excited to see him coming back.
And we've touched on it before. This upcoming stretch for Dallas in the regular season is huge. They need as many wins as they can get. More depth and added role players that you can trust are crucial in the NBA. That you can never get enough of those guys. And like you said, with Dante Exum being as versatile as he is, able to do a little bit of everything role-wise for Dallas, he's going to be great to have back.
Yeah, huge on this injury-depleted team. And obviously, he's going to be one of those guys we aren't going to probably see upgraded to available or probable until after this road trip. I do know there is a chance he can come back this road trip because he is on the plane. Najee's on the plane, Dwight Powell's on the plane, Exum's on the plane. All these guys are on the plane. Like Luka isn't on the plane, so we're not expecting to see him until they get back. So there is a chance he could play in the Philly versus or Philly and Boston games at the end of the road trip. So something to keep your eye on. Obviously, we'd like to have Dwight Powell back too. The sign that he's on the plane is really good for us. But uh, Dante Exum, huge for us to have another role player coming back into the lineup. And it's almost like we traded for another guard because we haven't seen him at all this year with this new Mavs team. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah, as you should
And
be. And
yeah,
Dallas is, I mean, as we've touched on before, in this road trip, you know, it's going to be tough for Dallas. They need all the help they can get.
yeah.
But
I think we got our win versus the Wizards last on Monday night. The Mavs over the next 5 games at Pels, at Pistons, at Cavs, at Philly, at Boston. I would be stoked if we went 3-2. If we were able to beat the Pels, Pistons, and Philly, and then probably lose to the Cavs and Celtics, that's a miracle, awesome road trip for us. Gaining us momentum into Luka coming back. Now Philly has like Paul George out for like a week, and then obviously Embiid isn't back yet. Willing to throw a large sum of money that the Mavs are always the team that stars come back against. So we're going to see Embiid and Paul George against us at Philly, willing to throw my entire bank account on it. So that's going to be a much different team than the, pretty awful Philly team that we see now. So that will be a harder game than a lot of Mavs fans think.
yeah, thankfully, it seems like y'all are catching Cleveland at a good time, just with them losing 3 in a row.
Yep.
2 of them to
Could be a
Houston.
good thing.
So
Could
yeah,
be.
you never
Could be a
you
bad
never
thing.
know. You never know, right? Playing at the Q is always tough. Those fans are awesome. So
Yep.
what cracks me up? Have you ever watched a Cleveland Cavs game on League Pass? Have you seen what they've been
This
doing
year, yeah.
recently? Have you seen what they've been doing recently? They have this above their score. They have this thing called the diff.
Oh yeah, I have seen that.
And
Yeah, I
all
did
it
see that.
is just how much they're winning by or how much they're losing by.
That's cool. I like that.
And they put it like it's some mystical, amazing stat, but it just says the death.
I like that idea. I think that other teams should take advantage of that.
Oh,
The
so
Thunder,
funny.
that'd be a great thing for the Thunder to have on their broadcast because you start really going into some math with some of these Thunder games if you're getting into the hundreds and they're spanking.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good problem to have, I guess. So
It is.
yeah,
Speaking of the Thunder, are you about ready to get into your Thunder talk?
Oh man, I mean, you know how it is against the Warriors, right? It's personal. You know, I'm one of those guys that never forgets the pain that they brought us. Never forget.
Hurry, way downtown.
Yeah, we don't need to be doing that. So anytime you play a team like Golden State on national TV, you want to put your foot on the throat and dominate. So
Yep.
on the road tonight, we're fortunate enough to just get 2 rest days. We haven't played since the last time we recorded, so I'm just going to kind of preview the game. ESPN tonight, Dave Pasch, Bob Myers, George Sedano. It makes me cringe how anytime ESPN has the Warriors game on, they have to have Bob Myers commentating. And as an opposing fan, I hate that personally.
Yep.
I don't think that guy should be on TV. And also he's on my hate list too. So, but thankfully for Thunder fans, with it being on ESPN, that means it's also going to be on FanDuel, which means that we can get our home announcers if y'all want to. So that's nice. That's my one. We talk about the narratives of the NBA poor marketing. One of the worst things about games being on TNT is that it's not on the local network. So that's kind of cool that it is on ESPN and also FanDuel. So, but yeah. Vastly different situations for these teams tonight. Oklahoma City coming off 2 days rest, 37-8, first in the West. We owe this team one for hurting Chet earlier this season.
Yeah.
Not really their fault. Wiggins just kind of drove up and made contact and was trying to draw contact at the rim, and Chet contests everything when he's in the game. So just one of those freak things. But I think Shea always takes this matchup with Curry pretty personally. Curry's actually probable tonight, but I'll touch on that later. Last time we played in the Bay, it was the Shea Instagram post that just set NBA Twitter ablaze, where he blocked Curry and posted like 4 different things on Instagram of him with highlights and Curry. And that kind of put a target on his back. Last year also, Chet Holmgren turnaround in the corner to force overtime was one of the best shots of the season. I remember watching it and about lost my mind. And Chet, one of his breakout games. I mean, I think he had 35 points that game. So great. We've had great moments in this building. I hope it keeps up tonight. This Houston's creeping up on us. They've won 4 in a row. They're only 5.5 games back from us now, which is a smaller gap than it has been before. Yeah. So it's not a for sure thing with the way that Houston's been playing and the way Amen Thompson's been emerging that we're going to be the 1 seed. So games like this, we need to take care of business when we have the clear rest advantage, the clear injury advantage.
Yeah, I was going to say Warriors have been
advantage.
Struggling with injuries lately.
Yeah. So really important for us to just come out and set the tone. I think I'm not worried about that with Shea. I think he's one of the best leaders in the NBA. I think the entire team matches his sort of body language and mentality is that, this is just one of 82. No one is going to actually take this personally or, come out, but there's always the human nature there.
I mean, I definitely think this is a favorable matchup for the Thunder. Not only just all the injuries coming in the Bay for the Golden State Warriors, but also just kind of the crashing and burning we've been seeing from them since their hot start. Really, since Buddy Hield stopped being hot, they've stopped being hot, and that this is coming from Steve Kerr said that this was the deepest team in the league earlier this year. I don't know if you remember those comments.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we were talking back and forth like, does this guy did he coach the 2016 Warriors? Like that I know it necessarily wasn't a deep team, but I mean, I don't know. That was just crazy. And I know they lost the Anthony Melton earlier this year. Yeah. I know that injury hurt them really bad, but they've traded him away already. They've gotten Schroeder back. So at this point, they just need to move forward. Curry, probable tonight, was originally ruled out and upgraded to probable, so that's a good sign. He's having a bilateral knee issue there, so did not play last night against the Jazz. So, yeah, and also another thing, too, I don't know if I mentioned. I mentioned we had a rest advantage. Well, the Warriors, this is actually a second night of a back-to-back for the Warriors, too. So a significant rest advantage. There's not often in the NBA where you get 2 days rest advantage over a team.
Played a clutch game against a decently close game against the Jazz last night too. So it wasn't like a blowout either.
Right. So Draymond Green obviously still dealing with that left calf strain. He's going to be out for another week or 2. And Kuminga, right ankle sprain, right? So you could argue that's their 3 best players. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them against us. We're coming back healthy now with Joe and Hartenstein back. So I think we have the advantage. But I want to kind of touch on the Warriors bench though, because I've been kind of interested with what they've been doing. So Pods has been playing better since coming back from injury.
Right.
He's had 20
points. For those who don't know, he was probably the worst guard in the Western Conference getting rotation minutes at a certain point this year. He big sophomore slump. I think he was shooting like high 20s from 3, really struggling this year.
Yeah. It didn't matter much at that point in the season because they were still winning. But he was horrible in the minutes he had and nearly unplayable. Negative on both ends. Just looked like a shell of himself.
Yeah.
But Schroeder played a really good game last night. He had a kind of opposite as Pods, had a fantastic start to the season, but that was with Brooklyn, right? He was really helping them win, helping them win too much, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
he's been struggling.
He was arguably the best player on that Brooklyn Nets team before he got traded. So,
yeah. I mean, I've kind of looked over some plus minuses for the Warriors this year, and I think Dennis Schroeder was like minus 110 or something, like a crazy plus minus negative. Like whenever he's been on the court, they've been a losing team so far since the trade.
right.
It has not been as good of a move. And we can even go further. I've been kind of piling on the Warriors. I mean, I was kind of, saying Steph was snubbing Ant of a starting spot, and Steph shouldn't even be on the All-Star team. I don't even blame Steph for the problems that they've had. Steve Kerr and Mike Dunleavy are having a battle right now for who is the worst in that franchise. Steve Kerr has, even we've seen it from the Olympics, like Steve Kerr has been throwing questionable lineups out there. He's been saying controversial stuff in the media. Like he's been we've seen it. He's been struggling to be the head coach of that team whenever they're, not having a loaded roster. And Mike Dunleavy is the reason that they don't have a loaded roster. I mean, clear opportunity this summer to trade Kuminga for Lauri Markkanen, who fits that team perfectly, gives them size when they need it. Doesn't pull the trigger on that deal. I know there's been rumors for other deals and other situations, but then Steve Kerr to go on the media and say, hey, like we have the deepest roster in the league. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it'll be interesting to see. I know we're going to talk about him a little bit more in this trade deadline news, but really, really, if I was a Warriors fan, really disappointed in my front office and coaching staff this year.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of Steve Kerr. Just putting it out there.
One of the most overrated coaches ever.
I thought he was the most fraudulent coach in the NBA, even when they had the super team that they had, right? Mm-hmm. He frustrates me coaching Team USA sometimes. I'm like, what are we doing, dude? So, yeah, I would not want to watch a team that's coached by Steve Kerr. He's just feels like sometimes he just doesn't – he's kind of out of touch with and the modern NBA. I mean, just to put it lightly.
Yeah.
But
Mike Dunleavy is worse than Kerr, though. Mike Dunleavy is I could make an argument, the worst GM in basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly has been unable to realize that team lacks center depth, lacks size inside. I mean, one of the worst teams at defending the paint in the league. You have Kevin Looney, we think of like a 7-footer. Kevin Looney's a 6'9" immobile center.
Yeah.
Like decent rebounder.
Kevin Looney's time is in the NBA is nearing an end.
He looks like he's 38 the way he moves.
He cannot move whatsoever. But thankfully with the Warriors, I mean, they've been getting solid, a little bit of solid production out of Moody and Wiggins stepping up. And, we talk about their season. Wiggins is still kind of had a weird season for them. He hasn't really had been like an established good year ever close to his year when they won the championship.
Yeah,
so where he was an all-star starter, So they really need him and Moody. I love Moses Moody. I think he's I've
loved Moses Moody since his rookie year. Steve Kerr was unwilling to play him until literally this year when they have no other choice but to play him, and he's been outstanding.
And he's been great.
Good for them.
Yeah, and I think those are the two guys that I had circled that really have to step up for Golden State because they're some of the only guys in the roster that really have the ability to do it. Being quite frank,
it's kind of like, why haven't they made that transition from? They've just seen their roster last year at kind of the fullest potential it could be, and then just decided to make a move for Buddy Hield in the summer. That's going to put you over the top in the Western Conference. Like, I just don't understand what Mike Dunleavy is thinking there.
Right.
You obviously have a lack of secondary scoring. You're going to let Clay walk out the door for Pods. and then you're going to bring in Buddy Hield to make all things right. You basically just brought in a worse Klay Thompson to try to put you guys over the edge. And clearly we've seen for 2 years that team lacks a secondary score, reliable secondary score. I think Kamiga can be that sometimes, but a reliable secondary score for them.
Yeah. Warriors fans have been talking about Steph Curry being one of the only guys in the league that doesn't have a good duo this whole season.
Had a chance to bring in Lauri Markkanen and decided no. It's like, what are you doing, Mike Dunleavy?
And they've gotten this production out of 7-foot rookie Quentin Post that can stretch the floor. Mm-hmm. And it's worked great for their team because whenever you have a Steph Curry and you have a big that can shoot, it opens. It's so hard to guard, right? Because you have to show so much attention towards Steph whenever he's coming off screens because of the way he stretches the floor. If that guy that is helping that screener and your guard gets screened off, the big has to step up so far because Steph Curry has the most gravity in the NBA of all time, right? So often what happens is, the big guy who the screener is just going to be left wide open. And Quentin Post has done really well with that. He's, been stretching the floor great for them. Guy Santos, another guy, kind of a guy who kind of plays bigger than he is, but still providing a little bit of spark for them. You touched on Buddy's struggles. Buddy was 5 for 9 from 3 against Sacramento the other night, but in the other last 5 out of 6 games outside of that Sacramento game, he's 4 for 23 from 3. So, I understand maybe the thought process of bringing in a guy that's just going to be off-ball shooter to kind of replace Klay, but you still didn't fix the root of the problem, and it's the big men. They've had for years big men like Kevon Looney that don't space the floor and don't protect the rim very well. And the one thing that Kevon Looney has done great is rebound, but he can hardly move now, so that's ability is kind of shot almost.
You have, and I know this is turning into a Warriors rant, but they've been having this. They've been deserving this for a while.
I think we need this.
You're watching Trace Jackson Davis and Kevon Looney, and then you go and look around the league at what teams were competing for titles. You just saw OKC spend $100 million on Isaiah Hartenstein, and now they have Twin Towers. You see the Mavericks have Lively and Gafford. You see, the Nuggets have Jokic. Obviously, he's gonna be killing for them all. He's gonna be playing 40 minutes a night, pretty much for the most part. But then you see the Wolves. Like they have Rudy Gobert, they have Julius Randle, Naz Reid, like all these very talented. Even the Rockets have Sengun. All these really talented top Western Conference teams have great size. And you just don't see great size with the Warriors. And they've been okay with that for what's been 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah. And I don't know. Did you mention the Lakers there?
No, yeah, Lakers.
Lakers, even the Lakers.
The Grizzlies.
How do you expect to beat a team with Anthony Davis on it with the way this current team is constructed? No one you can only trust Draymond Green so much. At the end of the day, he is a 6'7" guy in his 30s. Right?
Yeah.
I don't care how good defensively, positionally you are limited guarding those guys because you're 6'7" and old.
It's a failure to adapt to the new NBA, which we saw. That's why the Warriors kind of went on their little dynasty. Obviously, they got Kevin Durant. That helps. But teams needed a 2 to 3 year window to kind of adapt to this new style of basketball, which was shoot a lot of threes whenever the Warriors were going on their dynasty. Obviously, we've kind of seen a shift into having some shot blocking, good big man on the team. There's a argument to be made that the Warriors have the worst front court in the entire NBA.
Yeah,
you can make that argument. And it's not like it's just, oh man, like they messed it up this year. No, they've had that for 2 years, 3 years. Like terrible big. When's the last time you've seen like, oh man, team interested in Golden State Warriors big? Like you haven't seen anybody like interested in those guys get cut from the Warriors and they're playing for the Shanghai Sharks.
I mean, I can't even think of the last. I mean, who's the last best big man to play for the Warriors? Like David Lee.
Boogie Cousins.
I mean,
Boogie Cousins was probably
who?
the last good one. David
Yeah,
Lee,
I mean,
Andrew Bogut played good for them for a few.
Maurice.
Even
I
Andrew
mean,
Bogut would be
Mar-
by far the best player on this Warriors
yeah,
team.
Andrew Bogut's probably that guy. I mean, Maurice Spades was giving you way better minutes than
Yeah,
whoever
Mo Spades, like
the guys
Festus
now.
Ezeli, like everybody. Like I would rather have Festus Ezeli over Trace Jackson Davis. Like what are we
Oh
doing here,
no,
Golden State? Like
I know.
I I've been they've been having that coming for a long time. I don't know how Warriors fans aren't going insane over Mike Dunleavy being in charge. Like Mike Dunleavy literally let Jordan Poole walk to grab a 38-year-old Chris Paul.
Yeah,
And that's the
which
only move they did that year.
yeah, I don't understand. Mike Dunleavy, to his credit, I think is actually kind of drafted better than Bob Myers did.
It's the
But
only thing that saved his job.
the problem is their roster's just not good, and they haven't had a top pick, so they're just kind of drafting just these okay players, and he still hasn't drafted to fix their issue,
The
right?
Warriors are on the same level of incompetent front offices as the Raptors and Bulls. The same level. I mean,
Well,
just okay with mediocrity, and that's all they're going to be. They see all these Western Conference teams just loading up every offseason, improvement after improvement after improvement, and they just sit there and like, we're going to trade or we're going to sign Buddy Hield, the guy that got DMPs in the playoffs, and that's going to be the huge signing for us, and then make no other moves.
yeah.
It's ridiculous. Warriors fans should be ashamed of their entire front office, coaching staff. Steph Curry is so great for even pushing through all of this right now. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if he left in the next few years. Like, would not be shocked because I would.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to him for sticking out these. I mean, we know and we can see the body language and the way he does interviews, how hard these last couple years have been for him, and because he's not okay with it, obviously. So I don't know. We'll see what they do. I think
We,
they've been linked to Jimmy Butler.
mm-hmm.
Obviously, I've
Yeah.
seen them be linked to Nikola Vucevic. I think
Zach LaVine,
I,
yeah.
I think a move for Vooch would be good offensively. I mean, still, the thing about the Warriors, right, is they're multiple moves away from being anything
Yeah.
close to a contender.
Right.
So they
Yep.
could. I could even. I don't know. They're not going to be a franchise that's going to tank.
Right.
With Steph Curry, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
If I was Mike Dunleavy, I would just get super
Yeah.
aggressive on the phone and try to see what he can do because at this
Right.
point he doesn't have much to lose before he's going to get fired. So
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen that he isn't willing to do that. But I think that's a great segue into our next segment, which is one of the most exciting ones that we've had in the 3 podcasts that now we've done. And that's our NBA trade rumors segment, and that's with the NBA trade deadline coming up here in about a week or so. I believe February 6th. I believe is
February
the last day.
6th. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and so obviously tonight, you know, I think today or yesterday we got the big bombshell news about De'Aaron Fox being available for trade talks, and talk about just sad hours for Kings fans.
Oh,
Do we
my
want to?
heart goes out to them.
Matt George
Just,
is going through it on
oh,
Twitter.
just got back to the playoffs the last couple years, just to have one of their best players of all time just say, nope, I'm
Yep.
done with Sacramento. I don't like the way the franchise has been going. Oh man,
Yeah.
what
So
brutal! Just brutal.
brutal. And so we're going to do a little fun thing. We have most of these guys have 3 or 4 teams that they've been linked to. So we're going to do a rating on each player for what teams would be the best fit and then what teams would be the worst fit. So obviously we're going to throw out De'Aaron Fox there first. De'Aaron Fox, we got the 3 teams down right now. It's the Spurs, Rockets, and Heat. Ethan, where do you think De'Aaron fits the best within those teams, and which teams do you think he fits the worst with?
Ooh. Ooh, Spurs, Rockets, Heat. I'm gonna go best fit the San Antonio Spurs,
Mm. And that's where
and
he's preferred destination, apparently.
and because they're anchored by Victor Wembanyama being the most versatile, freakish alien we've ever seen. This is as much about a long-term positioning than anything, right? Fox said that he would sign a long-term extension in San Antonio. He wants to play with the franchise with direction. San Antonio has a very intelligent front office, been a franchise that has always drafted well,
Yep.
always put their anchor guys, their anchor big men in positions to win. And I think just this, me saying this is a great fit, is not as much about the roster now, but more about what it could be with Wemby.
Yeah.
Right. This, we don't know what even the best team around Wemby is going to look like because we don't even know what his best version is. We were talking about this the other day.
Yep.
So, I just think if you give Wemby a guard of this caliber that can defend, that can hit the three, that can attack the rim, I know Fox has not had the best season that
he's been pretty good.
We've seen before from him in the past.
Right.
But just to his standard, right?
Yeah.
But even then, I think just the pairing with Wemby opens up so much for him because he's never played with a big like that. Played with a big that can really stretch the floor. I know Sabonis is shooting great from three this year, but really stretch the floor like Wemby can. So I'm super interested to see if San Antonio does this. And I think San Antonio has the assets to get it done, right? They have Keldon Johnson, Vassell, Sohan, Castle. They have, Zach Collins' contract is sitting there. They have a multitude of picks. I think Shams said on ESPN today they have 9 tradable first-round picks. They have a boatload of second-rounders, swaps. If San Antonio wants to get this done, they can get this done, right?
Yep.
I know that Sacramento wants guys that are going to win now because they want to keep their fan base happy, and they just they tasted that playoff success. They want more, but San Antonio can make them an offer they can't refuse because of the assets that they have.
And we've seen that they may want a Stephon Castle or a Devin Vassell to make that deal go through, which usually in big deals like this, you kind of want a young, proven player so you don't just completely swing and miss, kind of like the Kings have done their entire time as an organization, really, on draft picks. So I definitely wouldn't fault them for maybe wanting a proven younger guy that someone else got. And that leads me, I had the Spurs as number 2 on this list of 3 as best fit, purely from the fact that they would be number 1. And on paper, they look like number 1. You'd be giving up probably some young pieces to get him. But also, we kind of haven't seen where Wemby is most effective offensively. So we've seen, we see highlights all the time of him. Sometimes he gets some isolations from the top of the key. Sometimes he gets some post-ups from the elbow. When you watch the Spurs play, it's kind of funky. Obviously, he's a great pick and roll big. They can run pick and roll with him all day whenever they want. His thing is he hasn't really found a super effective spot on the floor where they can rely on him, especially in crunch time, all the time. So because of that, they would obviously figure it out, but at some point, but it'd take a little bit. I just feel like we don't know what Wemby gives you guys offensively, especially come playoff time. So for that, I picked the Rockets as the number 1 best fit for De'Aaron Fox. And a definite big reason why I think that is because they're already probably one of the most athletic teams in the NBA around Sengun. And Jabari Smith's been out, but imagine this athleticism of De'Aaron Fox, Jalen Green, Amon Thompson coming at you
it's almost like a match made in heaven. All of those guys are able to guard a multitude of different positions. All those guys are able to, attack the glass with the best of them in the league, attack and transition with the best of them in the league. The speed of De'Aaron Fox fits that Rockets team perfectly, but also the fact that you think about replacing a Fred VanVleet with a De'Aaron Fox on that Rockets team, all around the same age as well. It's like that's a dynasty. That's a dynasty in the making of contender. Not, I wouldn't say championships. I'm not going to throw that out there quite yet.
But you're close. You're very close.
The Rockets struggle. The Rockets are in the 20s in offensive and half court offensive efficiency right now. Really struggle in the half court offensively. They're kind of Jalen Green, Alfred Sengun reliant offensively in the half court. You add a De'Aaron Fox, those half court issues get a lot easier. He's able to get to the midi. He's able to shoot the three. Obviously, he's able to play make, get those paint touches that are really nice. I think that De'Aaron Fox's fit on the Rockets is the best versus like I would rather have a kind of pass first point guard around Wemby, a guy that's going to throw a lot of lobs, a guy that's going to do all this different stuff with Wemby. I think that the Rockets is the best fit for De'Aaron Fox.
Would you give up Jalen Green to get Fox?
I wouldn't do that. No, I don't think they need to. Think about this. You just have the number, 3 pick? You can give up Reed Shepherd and Jamari Smith and probably 3 or 4 3 first rounders and get them. And that would be more than fine. Amon Thompson just took most of Jabari Smith's minutes this year. I mean, obviously we haven't seen what the lineup will look like when he gets back, but the Rockets don't need Jabari Smith in their future dynasties.
No.
Like we've seen that. Like the Rockets don't need Reed Shepherd. Reed Shepherd could go to the Kings and become a great player and play a lot of minutes for them and not have to sit the bench. Like Reed Shepherd isn't cracking the rotation. He was the top 5 pick.
Right.
It's like you have those assets to trade.
Yeah. The only thing I would be concerned with De'Aaron Fox and still with the Rockets if they made that move is the outside shooting. I think there is still a need for that on Houston. But I think you hit the nail on the head, though. I mean, how terrifying would Dillon Brooks, Amon Thompson, and Fox be in the court together? I mean, those guys, you want to talk about serious explosiveness, athleticism. I mean, they would not
imagine standing in the paint in a transition and you see Amon Thompson dribbling the ball up with De'Aaron Fox and Jalen Green in a 3-on-1 break. I'd be deer in the headlights.
Oh my goodness.
Headlights.
Yeah, and I kind of like the way I think Fox knows how to play with bigs like Sengun too, because there's a lot of similarities between Sabonis and Sengun. I think Sengun kind of looks for his own shot a little bit more than Sabonis. But I mean, and Fox has really reinvigorated the Kings half-court offense since he's been there. So, and he's been a guy that's been clutch in the past in big moments in the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, you make a lot of great points. It's hard to disagree with you there.
I think we both can agree, though, that the Heat would probably be the worst fit, even though it's not a bad fit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can pair a De'Aaron Fox with Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro, and it's really not a bad fit. It's just these other teams, it's like that fit is just borderline perfection, you know? And so, well, we'll see. The Heat are one of those teams that I just don't see them making a move for him. I don't see the Rockets making a move for him, to be honest, either.
Yeah.
I think it'd be the Spurs.
If I'm a Rockets GM, it's hard for me to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, like, let's break up what we're doing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, they're way ahead of schedule. Raphael Stone has done a great job since he's been promoted there in Houston, and I don't really see any reason to break that up. Now, if it were up to me and I had to choose, I mean, Sacramento, please send De'Aaron Fox to the East. Like,
I would love that. I vote that.
I'm tired of these Texas teams and all for them. Like, get them out of here
Don't send him to the Southwest Division. How about that? How about just keep him out of the Mavs division?
I love it, man. But speaking of the Heat, the drama of the Miami Heat Jimmy Butler situation has still been unfolding.
One of these days, we just need to go and just scour, like just look at Kevin Love's Instagram. That could be like a 10-minute segment of hilarious content. That stuff is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, go look up on your phone right now. If you're listening, go look up Kevin Love's Instagram and look at. He's been basically like laying the timeline down with funny memes and movie scenes for this whole Jimmy Butler saga. It's been quite hilarious.
Yeah, and part of me's like, I know there's guys in the Heat organization that see this crap. Like, is Pat Riley not being like, Caleb, like, why are you doing this? Like, I don't know.
The Heat players are commenting. There's NBA players commenting under it. Like, Max Strus was like, this one's it. Like, underneath one of them, I was dying laughing. I was like, dude, like, K Love is, I mean, you can tell that dude's about to retire. That dude doesn't give
no, he does not give a
care about it all.
No, he just doesn't care. But, Jimmy Butler, obviously, for those that have not followed the drama, has been in headlines for a while, right? Going toe-to-toe with one of the most stubborn people in the NBA, a guy who always gets his way and never compromises Pat Riley. And, yeah, we could have seen this a mile away whenever Jimmy started this saga and the past that he's had in Minnesota and all those stories that came out of that, But Miami is not the franchise that's going to back down for a superstar and never has been.
Yeah. I mean, we saw this is the big reason why, like the nail in the coffin last straw was when he stormed out of shoot around when he learned that Hayward Highsmith was starting over him the other day. And so Kevin Love had the Hayward Highsmith over me hashtag on his Instagram post, which was pretty funny. But yeah, it's been unfolding for weeks now. I wouldn't be shocked if the Heat just shut him down for the year and just didn't trade him or traded him specifically to the Grizzlies because he said he didn't want to go there. Because Pat Riley's that type of guy. But it'll be interesting. I have 4 teams written down here.
Okay.
For ranking the best fit for Jimmy Butler. I have the Suns, Warriors, Kings, and Grizzlies. Where do you think would be the best fit for Jimmy Butler?
Suns, Warriors, Kings, Grizzlies. I'll have you go first. I want to think about this one.
I think that the best fit would be the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies kind of are one of those teams that we've talked about is built for the regular season. They in the playoff runs that they've had, they've really struggled with consistent shot creation. And having a player that they can rely on in clutch times. And I know what you guys are probably thinking, like John Morant, dude, he's killed the Warriors last time they played. John Morant is not a 1A player on a championship team, in my personal opinion. His only good matchup has been against the Warriors, and that's really because of the Warriors' insane lack of shot blocking and size inside. Teams that have size inside, he really struggles against. I know one of his worst playoff series was against the young T-Wolves team with Ant. They adding another, playoff riser and, reliable scorer in the playoffs, plus pretty good defender in Jimmy Butler, would do wonders for this team. You surround a John Morant. You have a John Morant, Jimmy Butler, Desmond Bane, JJJ, Zach Edey or Brandon Clark starting 5. What better starting 5 can you get than that in the Western Conference? So I'd say that's the best fit for them personally.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't think that John Morant is going to get you enough half-court offense by himself, him and Desmond Bane in the playoffs, to be able to be a championship team. As many games as they win, they don't scare me at all, because at the end of the day, they are so reliant on Ja Morant, and pretty much the entire gym knows that in the clutch, Ja Morant's going to want to get to the rim, and he's going to want to put up a shot. So,
when has a 6'1" point guard been the best player on a championship team?
Never. And I mean,
closest thing we've seen to it is Allen Iverson.
I mean, the only point guard really in the 21st century modern era, I mean, you could argue, I guess, Chauncey Billups, but really it's just only been Steph Curry, and Steph Curry is very obviously one of one. So
Ja Morant can't shoot. Like, his shooting numbers are down. Like, he's not been reliable out. He's just a slasher. He's a 6'1" slasher.
Right. And
you can't rely on that in the playoffs, especially in the West.
Ja's electric, and he makes play. He's a great player to have. Don't get me wrong. But let's be quite honest, he's having his worst season he's had in a long time. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think this move works out great. I would agree 100%. I was going to say the Grizzlies. I was pondering almost what the worst fit would be, because it's kind of a hard competition. But I'm going to go Phoenix here with the worst fit, because
was my worst fit.
Because nothing about this Jimmy Butler trade would fix Phoenix whatsoever, right? They still
it just kind of amplifies their problems, if anything.
Right. They still have not figured out the big man issue. Nick Richards has played a good game, but guess what? The other night, Nick Richards got benched with 5 minutes left in the third quarter and didn't come back in the rest of the game, and because Plumlee outplayed him. So you still are inconsistent enough around your big three, your new big three that you would get, and you don't fix anything. So I think that would be the worst fit. Mm-hmm. And not even talking about contractually, right? Jimmy's going to want an extension no matter where he goes. He's going to want to get paid. That's a big reason why he's doing this, is because Miami's not going to give him the money that he wants, and he wants to get paid. And so if Phoenix somehow, which don't even get me started on this, somehow trades Bradley Beal, right? Yeah. If they find a third, Miami doesn't want Bradley Beal, straight up. You know, he's got the worst contract in the NBA and a no trade clause. So you have to find a team that's going to be willing to take Bradley Beal. If by some miracle they find a team that's willing to take Bradley Beal, and then they get Jimmy, and then they pay Jimmy a boatload of money, they're not much better than they were before. And they're in just as bad of a contract situation. So I think the Suns move. That would be a lateral move for the Suns.
Yeah.
And would not really do anything.
Right. You kind of think about their problems that they've had is the Bradley Beal, KD, Devin Booker minutes on the court together. They haven't really had that facilitator. They went and got Tyus Jones because Bradley Beal couldn't play point guard. I don't understand what you're going to do whenever you're playing Jimmy Butler, Devin Booker, and KD. If anything, Jimmy Butler's a way worse player to play off ball than Bradley Beal. I'd much rather have Bradley Beal playing off ball than Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is a ball dominant shot creator, mid-range slasher kind of guy. And so it's like that fit wise, I feel like Bradley Beal is a way better fit than Jimmy Butler. Now, one thing you could make the argument about is that Jimmy Butler is a way better defender than Bradley Beal. And that is something that obviously Jimmy Butler is a much better defender than Bradley Beal. Yes. But you can't, what Jimmy Butler, KD, D-Book lineup are you just going to throw? I mean, obviously you'd probably throw Ryan Dunn on the bench, or you could throw in Tyus Jones on the bench. And then obviously Nick Richards getting the center start, but like Ryan Dunn's been one of the bright spots on the Suns team this year. Very interesting move from Ishiba in the Suns organization, kind of selling their whole future, selling their soul for a Jimmy Butler sweepstakes when he's kind of a worse fit than what he already has in Bradley Beal. So
yeah, I don't like this move at all for the Suns. I don't really like it for the Kings. I don't really like it for the Warriors. So
I like it better for the Warriors than the rest of these teams, I'll say.
Yeah. So
the Warriors genuinely could use a little secondary creator. They wouldn't ever be a problem with having, a defensive guard like Jimmy. But the secondary creator aspect on the Warriors is kind of intriguing, and I'm sure Mike Dunleavy's thinking about that. But I doubt. I mean, you're already paying Draymond and Curry, and now you're going to have to take on that contract. It's going to be, it's going to be rough to see where he ends up. I would assume it would be a team like this. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Suns. So,
Yeah,
but we'll see.
I don't. We'll see what happens. I honestly have no idea what's going to happen with Jimmy Butler. I could not tell you. It just seems like there's so much going on behind closed doors with that saga that who really knows. And Pat Riley has made blockbuster moves in the past, so who knows what he's cooking up, right? So what do you think about Cam Johnson?
Yeah, Cam Johnson was the next one on the list. So obviously there's been, I feel like everybody in the West has had Cam Johnson trade rumors at some point. There's obviously a top 4 teams that we've seen more than others. So I have the Thunder, Kings, Cavs, and Bucks on the listed interested teams in Cam Johnson. Who would you think would have the best fit with a Cam Johnson on their team?
I'm going to go Cleveland.
Interesting.
I'm going to go Cleveland because for the longest time, Cleveland has not figured out the 3 spot. They've tried Okoro. They've tried Dean Wade and Max Strus. I think now they've figured it out more than ever before, but I still think this Cleveland team could use a little more and to put them over the edge against a Boston. And that needs to come at the wing position because to match up against Boston better, you have Evan Mobley, but a guy like Cam Johnson would really put so much more stress around that offense, even at more than before. So the question, Mobley's been shooting it great, but I'm still a little concerned, being quite honest, about the spacing with Mobley and Jared Allen lineups.
Right.
I think we can all agree that the Cavs' best chance moving forward and best lineup is going to be with Mobley and Allen on the floor. And I think as much shooting as you can surround that with those guys, I think would be best. And Cam Johnson just fits like a glove with what Cleveland and Kenny Atkinson are trying to do on offense. And I think it would just make them even more incredibly dangerous than they already have been this year. So, and it just gives their coaching staff a little bit more versatility. And I don't know. I like Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson's such a versatile guy that his fits with teams really make sense for a lot of different teams. But Cleveland, especially to me, they kind of have a lot of boxes already checked, obviously.
Yeah.
With the way they've been playing. But I think this is a move that would really put them as the team to beat in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see the Cavs being a bad fit at all for Cam Johnson. Obviously, you get to replace a guy like Dean Wade with a Cam Johnson. You take that opportunity if you could get it for the right price. I think the best fit personally would be the Thunder for Cam Johnson. My thing with the Thunder and their only probable weakness on their whole entire roster is their lack of size in the forward spot. I've been saying this for years. You guys have been playing J-Dub at the 4 for most of his career. J-Dub is a 3. Like, if we're being real, J-Dub would be much better as a 3 with maybe a floor spacer at the 4, 3-and-D guy at the 4, where he doesn't have to guard players that are just heavier and taller than him.
Or J-Dub even at the 2 with Dort at the 3, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so
adding a guy that's Cam Johnson's size at the 4 to kind of help on the rebound, on the glass with the Thunder, and then obviously help guard bigger players. It'll be a huge help on that squad, especially when obviously we haven't seen what they'll do with Chet maybe at the 4 sometimes or different looks like that, but Cam Johnson and the Thunder to me is kind of like a match made in heaven. He isn't quite the defender like the rest of the Thunder roster. He doesn't quite play the passing lanes, but honestly, you can throw any dog. He's not a bad defender by any means, but you can kind of throw, worse defensive players in this Thunder rotation, and it kind of gets masked up by everybody else. So Cam Johnson being able to add some size and shooting to the outside, like we've seen, the Thunder probably need some additional shooting in certain stretches. Really is a match made in heaven for me. And the Thunder have the capital to do that trade if they needed to. Now, he's very expensive, and you'll probably have to make some decisions in the future. But that, if we're taking contracts out of it and pure basketball fit, Cam Johnson fits like a glove to me.
Yeah, the Thunder were a close second for me here. Just an obvious patch and boost to the offense with Cam Johnson. People forget, or people may not forget. Some people forget or don't know that Cam Johnson was on the Suns when they made the finals, right?
Yeah.
He knows how to play a role on a very, very good winning team in a team, and he would play sort of a similar role that he did on the Suns on this Thunder team, right? Sort of just be a guy that's going to come off the bench and be a spark plug. Or, right. you would probably start Cam Johnson, but either way, he's going to be a spark plug for the offense with his shooting and decision making. I think it would give us more of a veteran decision maker and a guy who's been there at the highest level and knows how to win at that level. So Caruso gives you the veteran presence on the defensive end, but just a veteran presence offensively that's been that far in the playoffs, I think would also help us a lot too. So yeah, I completely agree. My only concern is that Cam Johnson does feel like he plays smaller than he is. Like he's listed at 6'9", but he kind of plays like he's more 6'7", 6'6", because he doesn't have the biggest wingspan in the world and he's not the most vertical athlete. But at the end of the day, he's still a 6'9", right? And will still help you rebound and will still do all those things. And you're right. The two needs on the Thunder team are half court creation, especially when Shay's on the bench, and forward size. So I would love this move as a Thunder, as a fit. Yeah, I agree.
And then my kind of bottom two, it's kind of a steep drop off after that for me personally. I don't know about for you, but like I don't like the Bucks or Kings fit really that much at all. Obviously, the Bucks have some pretty good outside shooting already outside of Giannis and Brook Lopez and AJ Green and Damian Lillard. Even Bobby Portis can go in and hit some shots from the perimeter. Obviously, it'd probably be a Bobby Portis or someone involved in a deal like that, I would assume, or maybe some of these young guys. I know I think his name is Andre Jackson that plays for the
Andre Jackson.
Bucks.
He's their best perimeter defender. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you aren't going to be sliding him to a bench role at all. It'd probably be a Dame, Andre Jackson, Cam Johnson, Giannis, Brook Lopez lineup. Like it's a pretty good lineup, honestly.
If doesn't sound too bad.
You have shooters, you have size. I just worry defensively. They probably need more defense on the perimeter outside of that. I mean, really relying on a rookie defensively in that lineup is kind of, I don't know if I like that fit come playoff time. They're definitely a better fit than what the Kings would be for me. The Kings already have a Cam Johnson. Keegan Murray it gives you everything that Cam Johnson would give you. Pretty much maybe a little bit less shot creation, but just an all-around better defender. So unless the Kings plan on moving, DeMar to the bench or, shipping De'Aaron Fox out, I don't really see a great fit for the Kings with the Cam Johnson. They need more outside shooting, but then you already made that move for DeRozan. So it's like, I don't see a good fit for him on that team, especially with the direction they're going with Fox being possibly traded and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the biggest need for the Kings is defense and has been for a while. So for me, that Cam Johnson's positive on the defensive end, but not necessarily like a guy that's you're going to put on another team's best player. So, yeah, I agree. I do kind of think that the Bucks fit wouldn't be bad, but another thing is I don't see the Brooklyn front office trading him to the Bucks because they're kind of monitoring the Giannis situation, and the thing that they would really want the most would be like Giannis losing in the first round again, and being as unhappy as possible. So,
very true.
And another thing is on the Brooklyn front office is I'm not entirely sure what they're looking for. If they're looking for young players and picks, because it kind of seems like that front office is a little all over the place with their direction sometimes. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see where Cam Johnson goes. I feel like we've talked about him at the deadline for a couple of years now, but we'll see if anybody really makes one of these moves with these players. So I think that this should be the last one, since we're kind of going over on time, is talk just a little bit briefly about Zach LaVine and some of the teams that he can help. I have written down here Bucks, Warriors, and Nuggets. Who do you think that he would help the most with? And we can kind of do this one a little bit more brief. The Bucks, Warriors, and Nuggets. Best fit and worst fit.
Oh boy, do I love this fit for the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You want to talk about I think this team could compete for a championship straight up if they got Zach LaVine.
Yep.
I think that just with Jamal Murray's drop off, right? This team has already been one of the most unstoppable offenses that we've ever seen, spearheaded with Jokic at times. Now, they've been the benefactors of some great shooting variants that dropped off the cliff the other night when they finally came down to earth. But I think Zach LaVine provides them a spark, and that they've gotten out of Jamal Murray, but now they're kind of uncertain with Jamal Murray, right? So Russell Westbrook, I think, is a great Band-Aid for them. But in the playoffs, when you have to rely on Russell Westbrook's outside shooting, I'm still not for certain that's going to work, right? And yes, the Nuggets still struggle defensively, but they would be the hardest team to guard in the NBA if they got Zach LaVine and retained this shooting, right? Zach LaVine and a Jokic pick and roll would be absolutely devastating. I don't know how many teams could deal with that sort of firepower. And Zach LaVine has always been a consistent outside shooter in his career. And I think that'd be a great move for the Nuggets.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be definitely interesting. I think that I had that down as the best fit for Zach LaVine as well. He, even his above the rim threat with Jokic and being able to, maybe slide some back cuts and obviously his ability to create on the perimeter. Adding another shooter to that lineup, especially, you could even play the Russ and Jokic minutes a little bit more effectively. Even, surrounding a shooter next to Aaron Gordon, you just space the floor out a little bit better. So I love the fit, honestly. We could name any of these guys and we could say the fit would be great in Denver because of how good Jokic is, and he's the best player in the NBA. So definitely love that fit. I had the Nuggets as the number one fit for Zach LaVine as well. Don't know how they'd make that deal happen. And Zach LaVine is one of the most overpaid players probably in the NBA. But it'll be interesting to see if the Nuggets kind of make a move in these next year or two for another creator now that Jamal Murray's dropped off. I think the second best fit is the Warriors for me with Zach LaVine. I mean, we touched on it earlier. We kind of ripped into the Warriors. They've obviously had a struggle with secondary shot creation, secondary scoring for them. It's been very unreliable this year. Kuminga's kind of been the guy as their secondary scorer whenever they've been playing, but we've seen Buddy Hield be it for a little bit this year. We've seen, Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins during their championship years, who's still on the squad. you just need a guy that's able to, one, space the floor with Steph as well. Kuminga doesn't do that quite as well, and Andrew hasn't been doing that quite as well. But Zach LaVine able to create from the perimeter, also able to add some athleticism to that Warriors roster, which always could use some athleticism on the team. Being able to push the ball in transition is a big thing for this Warriors team. I feel like that he'd be able to do. Obviously, you worry about him defensively, but it's just kind of the risk you have to take if you're Mike Dunleavy and the Warriors right now. And you see that your team's not even in the play-in right now, I don't think. So that's the second fit I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I don't mind the fit with the Bucks. I just think with these other teams, there's just more of a need for kind of a Zach LaVine guy. So, So yeah, do you kind of want to?
Yeah, I'll segue us into the picks.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, first game we have is Denver at the Knicks, and I think that's happening as we speak right now. But Knicks were -2.5 point favorites, and we aren't looking at the games or anything. I know Josh Hart was a game time decision earlier today. I haven't seen if he's been on the floor or not. I'm not going to pull it up or anything. So Knicks have been hot. Like, I think they've won 4 straight. Denver's lost 2 straight, I'm pretty sure. So it'll be obviously a fun game in the Garden. Talk about Jokic in the Garden. That's just Jokic in Madison Square Garden. It's must-see TV. Jokic on Cat, that all-star starter matchup, super interesting game tonight. I always lean towards these West teams when it comes to them playing against the East, but tonight, Knicks have been so hot lately. Their offense has been ridiculous, and we know that the Nuggets struggle with offense or with defense. I'm going to pick the Knicks to cover the spread, honestly.
Yeah, I got the Knicks covering the spread, winning this game outright. The Knicks are coming off just absolutely embarrassing the Memphis Grizzlies the other night. Held John Morant to 10 points, 3 turnovers. I mean, just blew them out the water. I love this game for the Knicks. I think that they're kind of hitting their stride at the right time. I still have questions with the Knicks with how much they play their starters, right? I think they played the most minutes in the NBA by a crap ton. So, but yeah, I don't see the Knicks losing this game in Madison Square Garden. So next game we got is Minnesota Phoenix in the Valley. Phoenix just got a great win versus the Clippers the other night. Like I said, benching Nick Richards with 5 minutes ago in the third quarter was the story of the game for me.
Yeah.
But they've been playing better, but so has Minnesota. So I think that –
I know Ryan Dunn and KD were game time decisions earlier today, so we're assuming that both of them are playing.
Yeah.
Or maybe Ryan Dunn might not be because he didn't play against the Clippers.
I'm going to go with the Timberwolves here. I think that Rudy Gobert is not – obviously Rudy Gobert is limited in his own ways, as has been documented many times and as known in the NBA. But Rudy Gobert will dominate this matchup, to be quite honest. I mean, the Suns just don't – Nick Richards is not really a dominant physical force on the defensive end. So I really think Rudy's going to get as much as he wants. The thing about Rudy is how much his teammates want to feed him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm going to go Timberwolves.
I'm going to go T-Wolves as well.
And money line.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to take the T-Wolves, the T-Wolves spread as well. My kind of thing is the T-Wolves. I mean, we saw it in the playoffs last year, just kind of a bad matchup with Jaden McDaniels kind of being the best player in the NBA to guard Kevin Durant, just lengthwise. And then obviously Ant on D-Book. We like that matchup for the most part. Then the size inside, we already know the Suns have a hard time getting downhill to the basket. And obviously having Rudy there won't help. I think the T-Wolves roster is just overall constructed much better to play the Suns than the Suns roster is to play the T-Wolves personally. So I'm taking
even a guy like Julius Randle could get going in a game like this, right? Because doesn't just sort of creates some matchup issues for the Suns. So
this might be my lock of the night is the Minnesota money line. So,
well, after your picks last segment, I don't know if you should be giving out any locks for the night. But.
For real, the first pod, I was good. Yeah, last pod, it was a bad one. So looking to have a bounce back. But the next game that we have is again, it's two struggling teams in the Western Conference as of late. Is the Clippers at San Antonio. And the Clippers are 2-3 in the last 5, and the Spurs are 1-4 in their last 5. And this has the Clippers being favored by 4.5 points. And it looks like Chris Dunn is also out tonight for the Clips. So
is that the only thing on the injury report here?
That's all I have written down here.
Ooh, I'm gonna go with the Clippers. So Kawhi, even though he got benched late in the night, played 28 minutes against Phoenix. Every game to me feels like he is coming to speed a little bit more. There's a semi-transition play where he just against Phoenix where he just pushes up the ball off the floor and then gets to the rim quick with athleticism. Like every single game, it seems like he's picking up a step. He's playing more minutes, and the more minutes Kawhi Leonard plays, the harder the Clippers are going to be beat. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that the Clippers they're like a top 2. Like their defense is phenomenal. They play ridiculous defense with Derek Jones, with Zubac anchoring him, with Chris Dunn, with all the size and length they have, with Amir Coffey, obviously Kawhi coming back. I mean, they're well coached. I really like this Clippers team for a lot of reasons, and Kawhi's only going to help them. And as I should segue, their offense has been the problem. They're like 20th in offensive ratings here, but Kawhi coming back into form, it's hard to pick against them, especially like a team against the Spurs here. I'm going to go the Clippers. Just cover and win outright.
Yeah, I kind of am tailing you this week, but I also like the Clippers in this game against the Spurs. Spurs been struggling. We've seen that. We kind of expected this from them at some point this year to hit a wall. Roster, I think we talked about this in the first podcast. The roster construction is weird to me. Harrison Barnes doesn't really fit anywhere on this roster. And Chris Paul isn't really a great fit either. I really think that they should lean into Stephon Castle, try to see the most they can get out of him. Obviously, Devin Vassell, great player for them too. The Clippers just all around are a much better roster. They're going to be able to guard Wemby pretty effectively. I don't know if they'll put Zubac on him because of Wemby's threat on the perimeter, which will be interesting to see that matchup tonight on who's going to guard him. If Amir Coffey, that's what we've kind of seen from some Western Conference teams, putting some fours, some smaller but better perimeter defenders on Wemby. Should be interesting to see that specific defensive matchup for the Clippers, but we know Jeff Van Gundy is gonna have a good defensive game plan against one of the future goats of the sport. I like Clippers all day. I'm a little bit different about Kawhi. I don't think Kawhi's really looked the same for a couple of years now. He's obviously still a pretty good player. He just doesn't get a whole lot of separation on the trying to get his own shot anymore. He's kind of just a bully his way to the basket slasher, and then can still shoot the mid-range at a pretty effective level, but it's just not quite – he's not quite as twitchy and, mobile as he was, during his prime early Clipper days or even like Raptors days now. And that's not to say he can't, obviously be different and change by the time playoff time comes around, but I just really lower on Kawhi than a lot of other people. I don't think he's really looked that good to me. So I'll take the Clippers to cover and to win this game. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe they put Kawhi on Wemby. That would be
very real possibility.
A lot of fun to watch. So last game we got Houston, Memphis tomorrow in the FedEx Forum.
Yeah,
Houston,
excited for this one.
Oh man, the first 2 times, I guess, well, this is actually the last time these teams play, but these teams played twice recently, a couple weeks ago. Oh, my goodness. Those games were amazing. came right down to the wire. Grizzlies pulled out both of them somehow with John Morant heroics, but Houston's coming in here hot. Just beating Cleveland twice. Once without Mobley, but still. Then they beat the Celtics, and then they won again last night. So Amon Thompson, these last couple of games, has really emerged, right? I'm watching him in TD Garden, and I'm like, oh, man. TD Garden's one of those places where if you play good in TD Garden, too, it's like, oh, baby. And the narratives were flying on Twitter after that. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. And deservedly so, right? This guy has been so electric. Just with his athleticism, his second jump. The burst he has is incredible. He is a jump shot away from stardom, like top 5 to 10 level stardom in the NBA if he gets a consistent jumper. It is that serious. This guy is legit.
It's very hard to be a tier 1 athlete in the NBA. That would probably put you in a top 0.1% of athletes in the world. Amon Thompson is every single bit of a top tier 1 athlete in the NBA. He's probably one of unreal athleticism, speed, vertical, quickness,
strength.
Nothing really he doesn't have
everything.
Athletically.
Oh man.
He's ridiculous.
For those that haven't seen it, I'll put a highlight of this when we're talking about this. But in the game against Boston, where he literally just grabs the ball over Pritchard and then dunks it right. Oh my gosh, dude. It's like you said, special type of athleticism that you just don't ever see. So quick picks, since we're running quick on time. I'm going to go Houston here. They're going to want revenge. They've been the hotter team. Give me Houston money line, Houston spread. Or Houston. Yeah.
All right. I'm watching this Mavs game. I just watched Daniel Gafford put Messi in the basket. I'm picking Memphis this game. I think Houston's going to have to come down from their how hot they've been lately, and I feel like at Memphis, kind of the end of their road trip, is kind of the last game that they're going to have. Just a brutal road trip too, by the way, like back-to-back Cleveland games and then Boston, now Memphis. Like if I was a Houston fan, I'd be hot. But I like this Grizzlies team winning this game. Obviously Houston's sick and tired of being on that road trip. Marcus Smart's game time decision. Tari Eason's a game time decision. Vince Williams is a game time decision. I forgot to mention that in this game. I don't think any of those are really that crazy, but I'm going to take Memphis to cover and money line this game just so I can switch up our picks, maybe have us rooting against some different teams. So that one's going to be must see TV. So
yeah, it should be a great game tonight. So, well, thank you all for listening tonight. I know we kind of ran a little bit long. We've been running like more hour and a half instead of like the hour we kind of been wanting, but we'll split it up, post on YouTube. Like I said, check the Twitter out, check the other social media out. We want to talk to y'all about ball, reach out to us on whether it's YouTube comments, whatever. We love talking basketball and would love to talk to y'all. So yeah, as always, thanks you guys for watching, and catch us next time this weekend on the Basketball Buddies Pod.